The billionaire Pomade Jaws has been killed in a hit and run. Zenigata, watching the news report on it, is ambushed by someone with notes demanding to see Lupin. He tackles his attacker to the ground and discovers it's a woman. Before he can ask questions, they're attacked by a team of gunmen and forced to escape through the window. Meanwhile, Lupin is complaining about a lack of stuff to do when he overhears Zenigata being chased. Zenigata barges in and asks for help, as their pursuers are New York Mafia, so Lupin gets him and his lady friend to a helicopter. Zenigata introduces the woman as Laura Jaws, wife of Pomade. She's being hunted by Al Cabane, who wants her voice to open Pomade's safe. Pomade made his money by covering up various political scandals, and the safe contained records of them, and Cabane now holds it. The problem is that the safe is activated by Laura's voice, and if Pomade's voice isn't heard first, a bomb will go off in Laura. Lupin agrees to help out, noting that Zenigata seems more than a little bit interested in Laura. Cabane learns of Lupin's involvement and orders him found in the middle of an appendix attack. He needn't search far, as the gang are already infiltrating to steal the safe. The safe shocks them as they prepare to leave with it, and Fujiko reveals she's working with Cabane. As punishment, the gang are loaded into a car crusher. Fujiko informs Zenigata and demands he hand over Laura before the Mafia rush in, but Zenigata turns the tables and dangles a frog in front of her, causing her to faint in fear. He escapes with Laura and someone carries Fujiko off. Cabane orders Zenigata found, guarding the safe by sitting on top as a rather hairy-legged Fujiko watches. 3 guesses if this is a disguised Lupin or not. Zenigata takes Laura far and wide, declaring that if Lupin really is dead, he'll just do what he can to keep Laura safe. Laura's injured in a fall as they're climbing a cliff. She wakes up in a barn and starts talking, confessing that she's given up hope. Zenigata tries to reassure her, but the moment is killed when he discovers a microphone on a pitchfork. He moves to fight off the pursuer, but Laura's caught in the crossfire. Zenigata's devastated and begins drifting, but Jigen finds him and tells him Lupin's alive and he can come help take care of Cabane. Cabane uses the recording of Laura's voice to open the safe, but nothing happens. They overhear Goemon shouting that they switched out the safe and head to the under construction building the gang are hiding at. Finding only a fake door, they race back down to discover the gang waiting midway. Lupin reveals he altered the recording's pitch on the tape player, meaning the voice frequency was different enough to keep the safe closed. Cabane is outraged and his appendix flares up again. As a henchman gives him more meds, Lupin slips the bomb pill in with them. He then surrenders the tape and the gang are allowed to leave. Zenigata walks off sadly as the bomb goes off, but reminds the gang that tomorrow's another day to arrest them as he passes them. I like when Zenigata and Lupin team up, as it reminds you that they could be friends if they weren't on opposite sides of the law. This episode also shows a bit of Zenigata's less Lupin-obsessed side, with how he tries to protect Laura and how down he is when he fails. Not to mention he does a good job of avoiding the Mafia and keeping Laura safe, and it's really just a one-off case of poor luck that he ends up failing, as it feels like he'd do whatever it took to keep her safe. Tragic story, but a good one nonetheless. Zenigata heads to FBI headquarters, learning that Lupin has not only been caught, but he turned himself in. He interrogates Lupin on what he's up to, but doesn't get any info. On top of that, Jigen and Goemon have also turned themselves in. Thinking for a moment, Zenigata searches through the police files and discovers that the criminal Clyde Barrow is being held in the same prison. He asks for Clyde to be transferred and to keep watch on Lupin, though Lupin is nowhere to be seen in his cell. The chief prepares for Clyde's transfer while Zenigata searches for Lupin, finding him under the floor. Clyde is led out by Zenigata to be transferred to Alcatraz. If you guessed that Lupin was disguised as Zenigata, then you're pretty savvy in this series by now. Clyde asks what the purpose for breaking him out was, and Lupin shows him the National Super Bank mobile branch. They're storing $600 million there while the main bank is being rebuilt. so it's a good opportunity, as Fujiko was also noted. The safe code has been taught to the manager's pet Myna bird, and Clyde having kept birds means he might be able to get the code that way. They're interrupted by a woman who knows Clyde, introducing herself as Bonnie Parker. Yep, this is the actual Bonnie and Clyde, having survived their infamous gunning down in Louisiana in some manner. I've heard stranger conspiracy theories. There's no honour among thieves, as both parties plan to betray the other. Lupin plans to run with the money, Bonnie plans to wheel the entire trailer away after refitting its tyres. As the gang move into action, Bonnie fits the tyres. The gang find the bird, but it flies off as Clyde tries to talk with it. It lands in Bonnie's grasp and she and Clyde drive off. The gang pursue them and Zenigata's not far behind. And then Zenigata charges in front, causing a crash when he stops to let them catch back up. Bonnie then takes care of the gang by dropping nails in the road, causing them to need to repair their own tyres. As the gang and Zenigata get their bearings, Bonnie and Clyde hide out and disguise the truck as a toy transport. Unfortunately, it's raining and the paint isn't dry enough, so they rumble pretty quickly. Zenigata's car stops at the state border, so he'll need the Kansas police to aid his continued pursuits. Time passes and he hijacks a newlywed's car to get them to chase the thieves. Bonnie and Clyde head out to a desert and decide to carry the safe to a secluded area, not noticing they're in a nuclear testing site. The gang catch up and search the truck, followed by Zenigata and a pair of annoyed newlyweds. Clyde gets the code from the bird, but Lupin overheard it too. He swipes the safe, but it's too heavy. A missile then fires, heading for the gang, but Goemon slices it apart and Zenigata's left riding half of it. The safe is empty apart from a note from Bonnie, who stole its contents before the gang put their plan into action. The Bonnie with them turns out to be Fujiko. This one was another enjoyable one. Zenigata's certainly back in full force with his Lupin pursuit. I like the idea behind it too. What if Bonnie and Clyde hadn't been killed and the gang getting involved with them is a good premise. Plus there's a twist at the end that indicates that Bonnie is herself a bit of a Fujiko, given who was disguised as her the whole time. We open on a brief history of the Shinsengumi and their failure against the shogunate in the 19th century. Isami Kondo III, descended from them, has hired Lupin to salvage a golden cannon, a symbol of his heritage. Also working for Kondo is Soshi Okita, who seems to have his own agenda as Goemon keeps watch on him. The gang head out to the Tsugaru Strait where the ship holding the cannon sunk. The cannon's there, but they're unable to even get near it, as the ship's pulled around by powerful currents. Lupin tells Kondo he's not about to risk his life and to get someone else to salvage the cannon. John, another associate, is disappointed in Kondo, but Kondo knows that Lupin will keep thinking of a way to get the cannon. He's right, of course. Lupin ponders day and night for a method of salvaging it safely. Overhearing some kids playing a ring toss, he's suddenly inspired. Returning to the strait, Lupin constructs a giant net and drops a large group of rings around the supports. As the ship passes by, he launches the rings and traps it, shielding it from the current. Though he doesn't let it slip to the others, he then plants a tracker on the cannon. As expected, Kondo has John's men attack the gang. They escape as John blows up the ship. Later, Okita leaves Kondo's ship among some rocks. To Kondo, this was a money-making scheme. To Okita, it symbolises the revival of the Shinsengumi and the first bid to declare Hokkaido independent. Okita has his own men kill Kondo's, and then Kondo himself when he spots Kondo faking a surrender. The gang sneak aboard, having used the tracker to find the ship. Lupin hijacks the bridge while Jigen and Goemon fight Okita's men. Okita is prepared, however, and uses a grass flute to summon a giant octopus, Lupin's biggest fear. How's that for a Series 1 callback? Worse still, it's impervious to the gang's gunfire. Goemon challenges Okita directly, but while he proves the better swordsman, Okita has the octopus drag him under the sea. Goemon cuts himself free, but Okita shows off his last resort, a bomb strapped to himself. Okita then climbs into the cannon and detonates it as the gang flee. Oh, and in case you're wondering where Zenigata is during all of this, it's his day off. Interesting enough episode that gives us some good back and forth between various factions. The method of salvaging the ship was pretty clever if a bit infeasible in real life, but Lupin's not real life, so he can totally pull it off. Also looks really good in terms of art. Zenigata is being replaced by the kid detective Barranco, son of Columbo. Lupin's target this time is the Solomon Eye Sapphire, owned by millionaire Mr. Queen, whose daughter Margaret is set to marry George, the star player of Queen's Red Eagles American football team. Fujiko is infiltrated as Mrs. Queen's maid and listens in on their meeting with Barranco. Queen's plan is to be left in the study for an hour alone to hide the Solomon Eye. Fujiko puts Mrs. Queen to bed, but with Barranco patrolling, she has trouble getting close to the sapphire. Lupin and Jigen sneak in, but Lupin's heist is stopped when he spots a hanging body. A shadowy figure runs off, and the victim's discovered to be Queen, though he's still alive. The Solomon Eye is also gone, and Barranco spots Lupin outside, putting him as the prime suspect. Lupin makes an escape, but runs into trouble when a police barrier's sleeping gas grenade lands in his car. Meanwhile, with nothing to do, Zenigata's taken to trying to impress the ladies by saying how he's arrested Lupin 100 times. Which isn't a lie, it's just that means that Lupin's escaped 100 times, as his lady friend points out. The chief tells him Barranco's arrested Lupin and he's now being transported. Meanwhile, Barranco informs Mrs. Queen that the sapphire wasn't on Lupin, so chances are it's still in the study. Margaret informs everyone that a Red Eagle has arrived to take their prize ball, and while Barranco doesn't really want anything to be moved, he makes an exception for the ball. He then investigates, finding Queen's will as well as a fragment of rope in Mrs. Queen's room. Goemon waits in a tunnel and cuts Lupin and Jigen free. They escape, leaving the police to deal with their sliced up transport. Fujiko meets with them and confirms she knows the location of the sapphire. They head to the Hollywood Stadium where the Red Eagles game is taking place. Barranco is also there, having deduced the sapphire's location, in the ball, himself. The gang enter the stadium and Lupin notes that George's body language while running is the same as the shadowy figure. Everyone ends up taking part in the game themselves, with Lupin taking off with the ball. Except Barranco switched it out and the gang are left with the time bomb. It happens. The Solomon Eye is returned to the Queen household and Barranco gives his deductions. Both Mrs. Queen and George retired at 10 PM. George then threw a stone at the study window and Mrs. Queen caught Queen in a noose, leaving George to hang him from a tree to fake a suicide. What they didn't account for was Lupin saving him at the last second. The motive was that Queen's will saw all his assets being donated to the Red Eagles. Lupin makes himself known and confirms Barranco's story. He then grabs the sapphire, but Barranco laughs that he stole a fake. At least until he returns to the police station and is told that the Solomon Eye they have is the actual fake. The police give chase as Lupin teases Fujiko about giving it to her as a gift. He drops it in a struggle with Barranco, Zenigata nearly swallows it and tosses it away, allowing the chief to grab it. The sapphire is out of Lupin's hands and Zenigata is back to doing what he does best. Entertaining enough mystery story if a bit obvious to who the shadowy figure was. Though I suppose that's indicative of what this episode's paying homage to, really. As I mentioned in the preview for the last video, not the last time Lupin deals with a kid detective who makes use of a skateboard for transport either. Next time, an Olympic race, a wedding followed by murder, and a look at Jigen's past takes us to episode 76. Until then.